So, let's talk about something really important that's happening kind of under the radar across Connecticut's farm country. It's a story about a huge structural change, and it could have massive consequences for the food we all eat and, maybe even more importantly, for the actual people who grow it.
I mean, wow. The source material for this explainer doesn't pull any punches, does it? That quote right there is a powerful way to start because it's basically an alarm bell. It's a signal that something fundamental has shifted right under the feet of the state's independent farmers.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What's going on? Why are these family farms, many of which have been around for generations, suddenly getting hit with tax bills that are impossible to pay? To really get it, we need to rewind a bit and look at how things used to be. You see, for decades, Connecticut had a system set up specifically to stop this exact kind of crisis from happening. And it was all built on one really important piece of state law.
This is the key right here. Public Act 490. The idea was simple, but honestly it was brilliant. It basically said, hey, let's tax a farm for being a farm, not for being a potential shopping mall. This kept farmers from being taxed right off their land just because the area around them got hot for real estate developers. Make sense, right? And the reason this law worked so well is that it was built on these three pillars. First, it was local. That meant the town assessors, the people who actually knew the community and the land, had a say. It was also gradual and predictable, so any changes happened slowly, which gave farmers the one thing they need most, stability. And the result was crystal clear. Because that whole system was local, gradual, and predictable, independent farms were on solid ground. They could plan for the future, they could invest, they could hire people, they could thrive. But then, well, you knew there was a but coming. Then something changed.
And here it is. This is the twist in the story. That foundation that seemed so solid for so long. It got completely shaken up, and that's what's led to the crisis these farmers are facing right now.
Okay, so this is the crucial point. You got to get this. The law that protected the farmers, PA 490, it's actually still on the books. They never got rid of it. What changed was the entire system around it, which totally flipped how that law actually works in the real world.
So think about it like this. For decades, you have the stable PA 490 system, everything's working. Then, in 2024, this new law, Public Act 2470, gets passed. And just like that, the whole thing flips. We go from local control to a centralized system run by the state.
And I mean, just look at the difference here. It is night and day. Where you used to have local assessors who could act as a kind of buffer, now you have standardized statewide modeling. Those gradual, predictable adjustments, they've been replaced by these contractor-driven processes. That local human touch is just gone, replaced by a top-down formulaic approach.
Okay, so we've talked about the laws and the systems, but what does this actually mean for a farmer trying to make a living? What are the real-world consequences of swapping out that old system for this new one? Well, the result is what the source material calls reassessment shocks. And that's a perfect name, because that's exactly what they are, a shock to the system. Since that local buffer is gone, farmers are getting slammed with these huge tax hikes that seem to come out of nowhere. And we're not talking small increases here. We're talking sudden, massive jumps that, for many, are completely impossible to absorb. You know, this really gets to the heart of it. The core problem isn't just about taxes being high or low. The real poison here is the volatility. The old system was predictable, you could plan around it. This new one, it creates this constant state of whiplash and financial uncertainty.
So, who gets hurt the most by all this chaos?
Well, it's not a level playing field.
A big corporate agricultural operation, they've got the deep pockets to ride out a sudden financial hit. But a small, independent family farm? Absolutely not. They operate on razor-thin margins. One unpredictable tax bomb can be enough to wipe them out.
And all of this brings us to the biggest question of all. Because this isn't just about tax policy, you know? This is about the future of Connecticut's landscape. It's about our food supply. The real stakes here are all about who gets to control the land.
This right here, this might be the single most important idea to take away from our whole conversation. A policy can keep land green. It can keep it zoned as farmland on a map. But if that same policy pushes out the independent farmer who actually works that land, have you really saved the farm? Or have you just changed who owns it? And this shift to a centralized system has all these ripple effects. It weakens what's called home rule, basically a town's ability to govern itself. It throws out local knowledge about soil and water and farming traditions and just replaces it with a generic formula. And what happens when small farmers can't survive under these new formulas? Well, it creates this huge pressure for their land to get bought up and consolidated into bigger and bigger operations.
So really, it all boils down to this one final critical question for everyone in the state. If the policies we have in place end up favoring these huge operations that can absorb volatility over the small, independent farms that can't, well, who do you think is going to end up owning and controlling the land that grows your food?
Let's just end with this final thought from our source, because it's a bit haunting, and it sums the whole thing up perfectly. It points to a future where the Connecticut landscape might look the same from the highway. Still green, still open, but where the person actually farming that land has been completely and irrevocably changed. A future where the land is preserved, but the independent farmer is not.